All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time to continue in our series of the wisdom of Dr. David R. Hawkins' classic teachings on spiritual truth and enlightenment, classical teachings on spiritual truth and enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why we are here, is to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through greater awareness and understanding of not only the nature of reality, but ourselves, so that through that awareness and understanding, we can then hopefully increase the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Hopefully, it's a wonderful day wherever you are. It's pretty nice out here. It's warm and a little breeze, and so I'll take it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you got yourself a beverage. And we will be diving into the section entitled Becoming the Witness. That is a very key component when it comes to spiritual understanding and the realms of enlightenment and living from an enlightened perspective, or a new, maybe more positive, if you want to put it simply, perspective, a way that you can simply enjoy life more from a new perspective or awareness. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So becoming the witness will be section number 1, and that's a pretty short one. And then after that is the sound of God, is silence. And that's very interesting. I've heard that quite a few times in my spiritual studies over the years. And to me, it's not religious, all of this pursuit and research. It's philosophy. It's a spiritual philosophy that combines many different traditions and philosophies, religions, schools of thought, however you want to put that. But the sound of God is silence is something I've heard come up in different areas from different people in different groups. So it's funny to notice these synchronicities and the things that seem to line up from different sources. And then if we can not ramble so much like normally and like we're doing now, we can possibly get to lifting the consciousness level of mankind, which is what David Hawkins was all about in his research of the levels of consciousness. And we've talked about that before in this series, ladies and gentlemen. So, without any further ado, let's dive right into the section entitled Becoming the Witness. Once again, reading for purposes of teaching and commentary and expanding the mind. Becoming the witness. David Hawkins begins by saying, it's very easy to see that everything is happening spontaneously. That even your thinkingness, even our thinkingness, ladies and gentlemen, is happening all on its own. He says it's very easy to see this. We think that we're deciding what we're going to think, but we're actually not. So we get detached from our own thinkingness, the same as the world. What does that mean? Well, let's go over it again. This will become clear, don't worry. It's very easy to see that everything is happening spontaneously, that even our thinkingness, our thoughts, and the things that are popping into our head, the pop-in theory, where it's just like poof, poof. And so it's happening all on its own. But we think, as we are going throughout our days, that we are deciding and that we are responsible. This gives us a lot of guilt and a lot of grief and a lot of confusion when we become very attached to the thoughts that are popping in to our head spontaneously, which is the nature of reality and creation. Spontaneity. If you look at things and if you look at reality, you can see the spontaneous nature. However, that does not mean there is order and elements and structure and all of these things. Let us continue, ladies and gentlemen. So we can see that everything's happening spontaneously, even our thoughts. And so we like to think, though, that we're deciding what we're going to think, but we are not. So we need to get detached from our thinkingness, rather than, the personal drama that comes with, and then continue the same as the world. David Hawkins continues by saying, you see that the world around you is moving without our help. All these people are managing to survive without us helping them to be here and move and talk. And so what we do is get detached, and we begin to become the witness. We begin to become what some have called it, the noticer, or, which becomes even more esoteric, the watchers, but that's a totally different thing. Hope you got yourself a beverage, ladies and gentlemen. The tea today, what does it say? It says the secret, if I can spin it around, the essence of life is to communicate love. What really is love? I think that's a deep subject in its own. However, there is some kind of force and some kind of power there. So when we can become detached from our thoughts and notice them and say, that's funny that that thought popped in. Wonder where wonder what the deal was for that, but that's not really me. I am the noticer or the witness, the one watching the train as it's going by. And you're like, funny train of thoughts there. I liked this one, but didn't like all of these ones. And so, like the way David Hawkins put it, you see the world around you is moving without your help, and all of these people are managing to do whatever they're doing without us needing to do anything. And so what we can do is become detached from and see it from a new perspective and become the witness. He continues, to become the witness is not a difficult step. It's only a matter of letting go of the narcissistic self-indulgence of thinking that there's an I causing things. How many times, now this is where it gets very weird, but there's two of us when we say, I can't believe I did that. Or I don't, these kind of I statements, I hate myself. Or I did such a great job. It's like, who is the me, the myself, and who is the I? And then who is the one doing the noticing of all of this, detached from either one of the characters? This this maybe is where the old angel devil on the shoulder thing, who knows, ladies and gentlemen, but this is what this makes me think of. Hopefully you're getting value out of this. I know that I am, because these are subjects that I love, and this is explaining this really well, this becoming the witness, because it has a great value in leading a spiritual, enlightened kind of lifestyle, whatever that means for you. I just like to think of it as a better quality experience, is that we can become detached, become the witness. It's only a matter of letting go of the self-indulgence of thinking that there's an I causing things. Now that I did a little ramble about the I, let us continue. Nothing is causing anything. There are no causes in the world. I don't know if it was Zen or Buddhist or an Eastern philosophy once said, we are not actually doing anything, but we are being done by God. I'll add maybe, but I always love that sentiment. You are not doing anything, you are being done. So relax. Maybe that's what that means. Calm down, stop trying to control and force and shove everything, and release and allow. And that, apparently, is the great secret. And that is the secret we were talking about last week, when you can relinquish your, it described it as the smaller self, but it's this self that is separate from the universal force, God. So we don't keep insisting that God do it or not do it or this, but we have a surrendering, so to speak, or an allowing rather than a forcing or a pushing, an arriving rather than a striving. But that's a different podcast now. Nothing causes anything. There are no causes in the world. There are only consequences, David Hawkins continues. And so what you do is let go of identifying with the linear. And you realize that your reality is non-linear. And to me, that I think of a timeline that is linear as compared to cyclical or non-linear. But let's see what he means here, because Dr. Hawkins is always profound. You realize that your reality is non-linear. You see, that which is witnessing, so us being the noticer or the watcher, that point which is witnessing what is going on, detached from it, and then behind that which is witnessing, which is our consciousness, maybe. And it's a very deep thought, like when you really sit there and think, okay, I'm noticing, but I'm also noticing that I'm noticing. And how many levels does that go up into our consciousness? But behind that which is witnessing, that which is aware that you're witnessing. And already you've removed yourself from out there, from the individual person or the personal I, this character, and you've removed yourself from the guilt and the anxiety of being the cause of all of those things that happen that you blame yourself for. Now, this doesn't mean that we do not take responsibility, but responsibility does not mean it's a weight, it's an ability to respond with ability through greater awareness and understanding of how to work and navigate through all this stuff. Like Alan Watts put it, you can kind of you can fight with life or go through it with some gusto. I always thought he was talking about like fencing, but anyways, you can fence your way through life or sword fight or however you want to put the analogy, but you can release yourself from the guilt and the anxiety of being the cause of all that happens. You've moved, he continues, into the condition of humility. You're being humble. You're not, I'll continue, which profound humility with this, you'll see that you're not the cause really of anything. When matter of fact, which is welcome news, because that means you're also not guilty of anything. Something happens and you say, I don't know, the mind did it. The mind did it. I can't help it. The mind did it. So to become the witness, then, David Hawkins says, now don't take this the wrong way and be, unintelligent and just blame everything on the universe and don't take any, once again, you know where I'm going with that. So to become the witness, then you become aware of the spontaneity of evolution. And you begin to witness. All phenomena are the evolution of creation. So the spontaneity of evolution, you become aware of this spontaneous nature of creation that is happening all around you, that you're involved in. And it's like this weird dance. And so if you do take this the wrong way and you're just like, oh, the mind did it, you're not harmonizing, like we always talk about, with God, with the Tao, with Atum, with this dance of creation, of reality. I love how it put it there, the spontaneity of evolution and the evolution of creation. Creation, Dr. Hawkins continues, has a source, but no cause. That's a deep complexity in its own there. I'd love to know what you think on that one in the comments below. Let me know, ladies and gentlemen. If you're getting value, consider subscribing and smash the like button. Share this with somebody who's like-minded. It helps support the work we do here. Easy for me to say, but very fascinating. Creation has a source, but no cause. It has no beginning, and it has no end. This was described in the Hermetics that we've been researching in other series on this channel. And it's also was described in the Tao Te Ching in another series that we did, reading through Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, living the wisdom of the Tao. But no source, or it has a source, so it comes from somewhere. It comes from God. But how could God come from God? Let me continue. Has a source, no cause, has no beginning and no end. We witness. So when we get into this state, when we become the witness, we begin to become aware of the spontaneity of evolution, of creation, and then we can see that all the phenomena are from this, which becomes amazing. And then you're like entranced with life. It's very difficult to stay in that mind state for too long when you're out here functioning in reality. I was going to say these days, but really in any time frame, most likely. And so very fascinating. We become removed from the guilt and anxiety that, plagues our condition, which is a survival, instinctual programming, which keeps us alive in certain scenarios, but can be a very terrible master. The ego makes a terrible master, but a very excellent servant. So if we can rein it in and work with it, not destroy it, then we'll be much better off. And then we can experience this new ability, this new way, this new life for ourselves. I think of it like life is made up of moments. And so you want to have as many, higher quality moments than not. And so we witness the unfoldment of creation around us. We can see this with this new perspective of being the witness. And there is no problem, David Hawkins continues, with creation because it is what you're witnessing. You're not like attached to perspectives or, good or bad viewpoints on judgments of duality concepts of reality, because you're just witnessing the unfolding of it. And you are like, wow. And so then from this detached perspective, I had no idea it was going to go here, but this is becoming the witness in the section entitled Spiritual Consciousness from the Wisdom of Dr. David R. Hawkins, if you're just joining. But very fascinating. There's no problem with creation because it's what you're witnessing. The fact that it's all happening spontaneously is not difficult to see. This observation escapes about 99% of humanity, of all of us, because for some reason, makes me think of the Bill Hicks quote I was thinking of it earlier. It's a go-to mine all the time, is that it's just a ride. We all get so into the rides, the ups and downs and the bright colors and the thrills and chills, and we begin to believe and think that it's real. It's just got to be real, but it's just a ride. And so this observation, because we get so trapped in life and living in the mortal or physical, that goes to more of a spiritual, talking about hermetics, to where there's a non-physical and physical, and in the realm of the physical there is duality and these different challenges or opportunities, as we should call them, for us to learn and grow. But so while we're dealing with all of that here, it's hard to see from this perspective that some might say would be the perspective of an enlightened guru. That would be difficult for 99% of us to attain. So it's easy and obvious to see that 99% of us can't, we don't even notice that this understanding exists. The way that Dr. David Hawkins put it is the fact that it's all happening spontaneously. This viewpoint of becoming the witness is not difficult to see, but however, that observation escapes 99% of us 99% of the time. I mean, the numbers could be debated, but that's just what he put here. And he continues by saying at least 99% of humanity is completely unaware of this. And we're not counting on widespread acceptance that you are the context rather than the content. I'm not sure what he meant by that. That we are the ones not noticing. Maybe. He continues, you are that from which awareness radiates, and out of which consciousness arises. Let me say that again. It's a beautiful sentence. You are that which awareness radiates, and out of which consciousness arises. The source is consciousness itself. The light of God, of Atum, is consciousness. And so the light of God is our own consciousness. And as we let go of misidentifying with that which we are not, being so attached to the external things, it becomes stunningly apparent to us that this is the case. That was a very beautiful section. I did not expect it to go there. I'm going to say that last bit again there. The light, this opportunity for us to have a higher experience. And then as we let go of misidentifying so much, or being attached to and connected to and defined by everything in our physical reality, then we can really get there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's dive into the section entitled The Sound of God is Silence, and see if we can get to lifting the consciousness levels of mankind. David Hawkins says, silence calibrates at the level of consciousness on the map of consciousness at 1,000, which is very, very fascinating. You would wonder how it would calibrate at all. However, the sound of God, David Hawkins postulates, is silence. To have sound, you have to have linearity. That makes sense. You have to have that which is sound and that which is not. So linearity, you have to have duality. The line, which would be this point and that point, rather than the continuous cycle, which it is all one. So in this duality or linearity or this and that is how we get sound. And so the lack of that, the oneness, as compared to the duality of sound, would be silence, which calibrates at 1,000, the highest level. You have to have that which is sound and that which is not, and then you have to give a configuration even to the sound. Therefore, Dr. Hawkins continues, mantras and other things, like saying Om, will take you to a certain level, which is very interesting. I would love to find a book on mantras and some of the deeper meanings, because the ah sound to me is very fascinating in Ra and Atum and God and Tao. There's all these different names like Allah, Buddha, Krishna, even Viracocha, and like you could go through all these different crazy, not crazy, but these wild, the greatest deities throughout all the cultures all across the world. And there's a lot of the names of these deities that include the sound ah prominently. However, that's a different subject. Going back to the sound of God is silence, and mantras and other things like saying Om will take you to a certain level, and beyond that, you become aware of the silence behind the sound, behind the mantra. And so, the purpose of the sound is to take us to the silence. I never thought of it like that. That's why repeating a mantra can sometimes really just lead to an altered state of consciousness, and the high feeling that you get disappears when you stop the mantra. It made me think it is not the bars that holds the tiger, but it's the space between. I love that one because it really makes you go, what? It is the space between the bars that holds the tiger within the cage. In other words, it is the space between the notes in the music that allows the music to be what it is. So there's this opposite effect. It is the silence in between the opposite polarities, positive and negative. You know what I mean. The sound of God is silence. So mantras have limited usages, he says. I would say they have many usages. However, they can assist, he continues, at certain points. But you can't live your whole life as a mantra. You can, however, live your whole life as a prayer, because a prayer is a verbalization of non-linear intentionality. A prayer to make your life a prayer, to become that. And that which you are speaks. See, the word prayer to me has weird connotations, but everybody takes certain things differently. But I kind of think of it like intention with your thoughts. But and that which you are speaks louder than what you say. See, that's the point. Essence speaks louder than perception. Very powerful sentiment there. Essence, the essence of something, speaks much louder than perception. The levels of consciousness don't say that we are better than others, that you are better than others. It's not a matter of better, but because of our status-oriented society and our ego-based structure of our minds and our consciousness, we say it's better. It's not better, it's different, these kind of concepts. And so very often to be in a different state of consciousness that is not appropriate to where you are and the people you are around can be quite a hindrance. And so, as you can see, that would also add to the hindering of this. However, he continues to be blissed out when you're driving would not be so great because you have to be aware and functioning. You have to pull over. So you have to sort of be in what's appropriate to the situation. He says that begins to adjust itself automatically. It is true that if you suddenly advance to a higher state, you may be quite incapacitated. So it's good, he says, very important to have spiritual friends and hang out with spiritual people and let them know that you're seriously on a spiritual path. Now, myself personally, I meditate, but I've never done any extreme protocols in order to achieve an altered state, because personally that's something that I'm not seeking to have at the moment, or at this point in my journey. I'm more trying to put the puzzle pieces together so that the big picture makes sense, so that hopefully, like I say, through that awareness and understanding, I can just make the quality of life better and not have so many struggles like we all do, because we're all struggling out here trying to figure it out. So let's do that together. And let's dive into the beginning here of the section entitled Lifting the Consciousness Level of Mankind. And we'll see where we get to, and we'll find a stopping point, because this one is a little bit longer section, and that'll lead us to next week getting to obstacles to spiritual growth, the things that can get in the way on this pathway. Now, Dr. David Hawkins, lifting the consciousness level of mankind. He says, quote, people think it's not what you do or what you say or how you believe that matters, but it's the consequence of that which you are. I said that wrong, though, but it still gets to a similar sentiment. Let me word it exactly how he put it here. People think it's what you do or what you say or how you behave that's the most important thing. No, he says, it's the consequence of that which you are. So that which you are, if you sit alone in a cave, is influencing the consciousness level of mankind. Even if you sit alone in a cave, it radiates out as energy. I seen a very fascinating demonstration of this. Jeff he had a house, and there's this lake that many other houses go around, and all their backyards go down to like little docks on this lake. And in the winter, he was doing ice plunges, which is very fascinating in its own right. All the benefits and effects not only on the body but the mind. And so he's doing these cold plunges in this lake, and the lake begins to freeze over as the winter comes in and it gets colder out. And so he's going out there breaking hole in the ice to go into the lake. And after he did this for just a few days, you could see the view from out the upper window from the house looking down at the lake, these cracks going from this tiny little hole where just one man is going bloop for a few seconds, back up out onto the dock and back in. Just a few days, there's these cracks going out through the entire frozen lake. I mean, not the entire thing, but you could just see how this little thing had such a gigantic influence on the much larger thing. And so, with that little ramble or example, David Hawkins is saying that even if we are sitting alone in a cave, that which we are, our level of consciousness, our thoughts, our energies, our vibrations, our frequencies, our resonances, are affecting all, he says, of mankind, but I would say all of reality. And so he continues now without me interrupting. Hopefully you're getting value. I apologize for all the interruptions. That's just how my mind works. And so even if you sit alone in a cave, it radiates out as energy. So each one of our, ladies and gentlemen, contribution raises the level of the sea, so to speak, the tide that raises all boats. But people will ask me, he says, what can I do to help the world? And he says, the best thing you can do is become the fulfillment of your own potential, which is another whole study in its own right, to discover your purpose and what your potential is and the things you're good at, and to, you know what I mean? So what can we do to help the world? Well, the best thing you can do is become the fulfillment of your own potential, because each inch that the sea rises, metaphorically, that the consciousness level of mankind rises, affected by all of us, even if we're sitting alone in a cave. Remember, it's not what you do or what you say or how you behave, it's that which you are. Now, I don't want that to be taken the wrong way either. We need to do the greatest possible things we can do, and we need to say the greatest possible things that we could say to lift and help, and we need to behave in the greatest possible way to lift and help this consciousness level, or this sea, quote unquote, as well as that which we are, or our level. So what can we do? We can become the fulfillment, because each inch that the sea rises, lifts all the ships afloat. Now, nobody has enough strength in and of himself to lift a ship. One man, one woman, to lift a ship by themselves, well, that would be something else. However, everybody is contributing. So, when everyone aligns themselves with the spiritual energy and integrity to be as unconditionally loving as possible, then we lift the level of the sea, the quote unquote level of consciousness. And by lifting this level, we lift everyone on it. So we do all that we can, ladies and gentlemen, while we have the chance, because negativity is, everybody knows this, negativity is so much louder than positivity. So any of us that have any positivity, it is our obligation. It is our obligation and fiduciary duty and responsibility to reality and the rest of people to be as optimistically and positively loud as we can about this optimism and positivity to hopefully counterbalance the megaphones of negativity that are so commonly, well, the mainstream is slowly losing its control, but that's a different subject, ladies and gentlemen. Now, so when everyone aligns themselves, critical mass, 100th monkey, with this spiritual energy and integrity, then we can lift everybody. And so we do what we can wherever we are, whatever we have to do to lift this level of consciousness of all of humanity, and hopefully at least the localized area of the universe. But and that influence will then have its own influence. The more aligned you are with this spiritual reality that we are more and more becoming aware of and discovering, especially with the astrological things going on, astronomical things going on, whatever you want to call it, the energies, or maybe just the cycles of the ages. Or if you don't even care about any of that, then you've got to notice that people are becoming different in their behavior and their thoughts. And we're waking up, ladies and gentlemen. So the more we are aligned with this spiritual reality, David Hawkins says, integrity, truth, and the universal love, the more profoundly we're affecting the world without having to actually do anything. Remember, the Tao does nothing but leaves nothing undone. And so, of course, doing good things works, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that, David Hawkins says, but in and of itself, that which you are, that which we are, ladies and gentlemen. Who are you? Who am I? We need to come to know ourselves. But that which you are and have become is what is truly influencing our world and this world. And that is a boom to today's lesson in the wisdom of Dr. David R. Hawkins and classical teachings on spiritual truth and enlightenment, on lifting the consciousness level of mankind and becoming the witness. The display quote here that we can take with us as we go here is the more aligned that we are with spiritual reality, integrity, truth, and universal love, the more profoundly that we are affecting the world without actually having to do anything, without maybe even noticing it. We're doing it on accident. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will save the rest of that for next Tuesday because it's going to get good. There's another display quote here a couple pages later. It says, we find that with force, the more you give away, the less you have, but with power, the more you give, the more you have. Very fascinating, the difference between force and allowing, what he describes as power. But that is always profound. That was profound. And I enjoyed it. Hopefully you did too, ladies and gentlemen. Remember to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness and a greater understanding of the nature of ourselves and of reality, so that through that awareness we can increase the quality of our experience and those around us. Have a better life. And also remember to seek to discover the mysteries of our history and the hidden wisdom of the ages. Ladies and gentlemen, remember there is no way to happiness because happiness is the way. And if we can bring enlightenment and happiness to life from within with an ability, then we already are there. You know, all the things we've been telling ourselves, oh, if I get this, when I get there, I'll feel this, I'll be happier. And that becomes irrelevant because then we are there. And so then hopefully the entire journey is wonderful. Well, thank you so much, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to get the book for yourself so that you can put it on your shelf and follow along in the series in the future. We'll be discovering a bunch in this book, I can tell. I wanted to keep today a little shorter, even though I always say that, and it's like an hour long. Expand the description to get the book for yourself. Put it on your shelf, as well as a link to my landscape paintings in the background and C60 Purple Power, the most powerful antioxidant known to man. Give yourself the gift of health. I've been taking it for a few years now. I actually need to get more. I've been out for a month or so, but you know how that goes, ladies and gentlemen. And with that being said, thanks so much once again. I always appreciate all of you joining me in the premieres and the chats. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and we just got to have some fun while we're here. I mean, these journeys can be quite intense, so I'll stop rambling. All right, remember, be the change you want to see. Be the example you want to set. No, 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 no.